Oil trouble and crisis. Have you noticed Bitcoin has been shooting up amidst all these things? Its use case is happening right now, and we are seeing Bitcoin take off because of it. Today we have our price expert joining us for a look at Bitcoin and many different altcoins and see what's happening and what we can see in the charts. Welcome to the Crypto Rain channel. I'm your host, Jay Rain. If you like money and crypto and you're looking for a real investor take on the crypto market, join the Rainmaker family. You can do that as simply as by liking this video and subscribing with that all notifications bell enabled. Note, I'm not a financial advisor. Paul is not a financial advisor. We are crypto investors and regular investors ourselves, sharing with you how we think about the crypto market and specific cryptos that I like is what I share on this channel. Note, normally I do own or plan to own most of what I talk about on this channel, but on Thursdays we take a lot of viewer picks from the previous video that we analyze the price action on. We also want to thank our Patreon members. We do have a private Discord that our Patreon members get access to. There is a link below to our Patreon if that's of interest to you. All right, make it rain on our like button and strap in for the show. Let's bring on Paul, who we're going to be talking some amazing price analysis from. Now, Paul's background, if you haven't caught this episode before, is 30 years trading based on price action in charts. You know, some call it technical analysis, but if you ask Paul, specifically, he focuses on price analysis and what the price has been doing as a way of reading the charts to know when he likes to get in, take the ride up, and then get out. Thank you, Paul, for joining us.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thank you for the introduction. Yes, absolutely. I like to look at the charts of the market, and technical analysis is based on the price of the market. So I know there are a lot of people out there who use various techniques, and there's plenty of techniques for you to choose from. But for people who are familiar with some of the charting aspects or technical analysis aspects of the market, what I focus on is the price, and I'll just explain very quickly why. Everything is derived from the price. So you've got moving averages, that's derived from the price. You've got oscillators, that's derived from the price. You've got all these other, millions of oscillators that you can check out on your system. They're all derived from the price. In the end, when you're trading, what do? You trade the price. You have to buy the market and you sell the market. You don't buy the indicators, you don't sell the indicators, you buy the market. So my primary focus is always on the market. I do use secondary analysis, which is oscillators and moving averages, and those are encompassing what we call technical analysis as a broader term. But there are people who use something called Elliott wave, which just use price analysis. And that's very similar in some ways to what I do. I'm looking at the price to tell me whether the market's in a trend or whether it's in a reversal or whether we don't know. There are times when you just don't know. And that's important, like a game of poker. Sometimes you know and you bet hard, and sometimes you don't, and you have to sit it out.
Best explanation I've heard. Fantastic. Well, great. You've probably been watching Bitcoin go absolutely crazy. I'm curious as to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we talked about it last week. I know that we recorded on a Wednesday and it went out on a Thursday and things were very volatile. But at that time, we were saying from a psychological point of view that there is that expression, buy the rumor, sell the fact, or sell the rumor, buy the fact. If there was one environment that would help crypto, it would be putting sanctions on Russia, because where's all that money going to go? It's got to fly into, the only other bankable thing that you can do, and that's put it into cryptocurrencies. So the structure of the market didn't look particularly bearish to me. We were at a difficult time, but I was erring on the side of being positive. I wanted to look for the market to rally. And it was tentative because it was in a dive. But we were saying on this Bitcoin chart here, as long as it stayed above the previous low, then this potential, what would be a massive double top if this is wrong and it's going to collapse, would be negated. So what we're saying here is, as it was in this dive, it needed to hold around this area just to stop it creating this big M shape, which would then create a very big pattern. Now, we saw the panic into the low in late January. So we'd seen that already. Then the market was rallying and I got all excited and I thought, yeah, this is going to go up a little bit more. I thought to around 50,000 and then come off. So I just thought it was a shorter wave within a kind of retracement phase, but I wasn't expecting such a big pullback. Now we did get this pullback, Why did we get it? Well, the market knew there was something going on. You know, there's people out there who are following news channels, they get tips. The financial markets are one of the most well-informed out of anywhere, which is also why I use charts, because the charts tell you that somebody else knows something that you don't. So that correction was much bigger than I expected it to be. But when we got the announcement that Russia were invading, what did the market do? It turned around. So it was sell the rumor, buy the fact, and it's had a really decent rally. Now, where it goes from here is obviously, you know, an important question, and it's sitting just below some really important prior resistance, and that resistance is coming in at about 45,896, that sort of area, which was previous support on the way down. So, you know, I like to look at these levels where it acts as support and then resistance. If it can break through there, we will make a double bottom pattern as well. So we've got one low and then two lows. So that should take us up to around the 50,000 area, with this 54,000 being a massive barrier. Now, I'd very much like to see it go through there. I don't think, well, you know, I never tell the market what it's going to do. It'd be great if it does go through there, but I don't think we're heading to new highs in this environment. I think the market is just going to have a relief rebound. And there are a lot of people talking about some very low numbers in Bitcoin who well may be covering their positions. So I think there's a bit more upside, but overall, this looks like it's going to range trade. And if we pull back a little bit and look at the big picture, actually, I'll just walk it over to a weekly chart. This is now potentially building up into what we call a triangular constriction, which means that it's going to go sideways for a little while longer, but this rising blue line will be forcing the market higher, and then at some point we'll get a big breakout. That's a little way away, but tentatively we can be far more bullish this week because of this rally than we were last week. But as we say, we were trying to find a low here. We were expecting some form of bounce.
Yeah, it bounced off nicely. And what's funny is the use case that Bitcoin was created for is in full play now, which is an alternative to fiat currency. And you're seeing, before, a lot of us bought it because we believed it would become necessary at some point. Now, to people in Ukraine and also some of those in Russia, they're seeing it as necessary, as even in Russia, the ruble is falling like crazy. And so they're just seeing their owning fiat as a store of value. They're getting crushed.
Absolutely. And I think it's also important to note that inflation is potentially going to go out of control, because you've got gas prices going through the roof. You've got crude oil, which may hit $150, may even hit $200 in this cycle. I think there will be a correction. I think we're coming to a correction now. But if you're interested in food prices, have a look at these charts. This is corn futures, which have just shot up. Wheat, which is, if you like beer or bread, this might be quite important because this is shot up in value. Soybeans, soy futures, all going up. The only things that aren't really going up are sugar, which is going sideways, but probably will start going up. Coffee has been going up and is correcting, and cocoa, which is going sideways. So I still think there's going to be some inflationary pressure, and the Fed's going to have to make a decision about that. Now, we look at the alternative to the, what will happen to the US dollar. So the US dollar may not necessarily completely track what's happening with Bitcoin, but when the dollar's weaker, that is an advantage, I would say, even though it's not a one-to-one correlation. But this is a chart of the dollar index, and it's still moving higher. So the dollar, I think, will get stronger. But what's really interesting about this current move in Bitcoin, I feel, it is going up when the dollar's going up. So, you know, that's showing that the correlation isn't completely one-to-one. But when we get that big move in Bitcoin, I think the dollar will be falling. So we'll wait to see when the dollar starts to go down. But another thing that I think is really worth thinking about, for those of you who've got a slight fundamental bias to your analysis, I was also saying that I didn't think the Fed would be raising interest rates by 50 basis points. And this was because oil was already going up. The dollar was already strengthening, and the stock markets were falling. This was before the Russian situation. So the chances of a 50-point rate hike by the Fed is much lower. So they're more likely to do 25. If they don't do anything, my goodness me, I think Bitcoin could really have a very strong rally on that information. But the dollar might come off, and if it does, we might see a commensurate bounce in the cryptocurrency. So it's a really interesting environment at the moment. I know it's obviously not a great situation as to what's going on, but we've got to look at it from a financial point of view and try to detach ourselves a little bit from it.
Yeah, agreed. It's been interesting the way this. I mean, we haven't had a major nation invade another nation in quite a while, and so it's been interesting to see the way that this shakes out, and the power of social media, right? So it used to be that, dictators pretty much controlled the press, and their people could hear nothing but what the dictator was saying. In fact, much of the world couldn't hear anything but what the dictator was saying. And now people all over Ukraine and Russia are posting stuff, and
Yeah,
and the dictator can't stop his own people from even getting news that he doesn't want them to get. So fascinating what's happening, and fascinating. Have you seen all the articles on crypto funding Ukrainians, right? And people sending money to the Ukraine through cryptocurrency.
No, I didn't even think of that. That's actually really important. I mean, I know that the truckers, when they were the Canadian truckers, I know when they were protesting, that some money was sent. I thought that way, but I thought it was also shut down. But yeah, of course, yeah. So another use case. So yeah, that's an important point.
Yeah, millions actually. I think the UN pledged like 20 million. So far, crypto's raised over 30 million. And so
Incredible.
we're seeing cryptocurrency being far more valuable than the United Nations.
Yes, indeed. That's a great story.
Yeah, love it. Well, why don't we jump right into some of these altcoin picks, as well as anything that you want to bring up, anything that's caught your attention this last week, that any charts that are on your mind?
Sure. If I'd have a quick look at, I think we'll have a quick look at the MATIC network, and just because that's one that I've kind of maintained a more bullish view on, so we may as well just look at that because it's here. So we had this triangular constriction here, and I was looking for the market to go up from here because it was kind of in a ascending trend, which then negated, and we saw this correction and new trend line, and this is coming down. But we had this kind of spike low. There's a few of the altcoins that look really quite nasty into last week that have turned around really aggressively. They still need to do a bit more work here because these trends are negative. But the bigger picture is still good. I still like it from a big picture perspective. But I think I wanted to mention it because I was saying that I like this one and I haven't talked about it for a while. So as far as I'm concerned, I still like the Decentraland chart. And that's mainly because because it's performed so very well from this initial breakout. So the biggest fear point was here, and then from the Russian invasion, it was here. So that's a higher low, and it's telling me that people are still buying it on pullbacks. Also, we have one of these really nice, what we call symmetrical triangles. So that's when the market is being compressed into a range, and it should break out in the direction of the prior trend. So the last one we saw was here. So it broke out very aggressively to the upside. So I'm not saying it's about to do that, but this could go sideways for a bit longer and trade a range, which it probably will. But I like the fact that it's still elevated. So one of my favorite ones is still, the sandbox and this one, just because the technicals are holding up so very well. But, it's still a very uncertain market. You've got to say that the geopolitical risk has never been this high, well, in quite some time. So we've got to take that into account. But still, everything's in the price, as we say. All that news is known about. So I still think the big picture strategy here, as long as it holds above this 170 level, and that would be if it breaks this low, which is a really important low, and it breaks below this high, those two are very closely aligned. If it gets below that area, then I think there's problems there. But as long as that stays, I'm going to be bullish on Decentraland. But to answer your question, we've got the first pick, which I believe is SC. So I've guessed that to be secret. Am I right by that?
Let me check that out. I think they're looking at Siacoin.
Okay, so I quite like this one, so that's a bit of a shame. But right, oh, Siacoin. Here we go. Here we go. So it's this one here. Right. So if it's Siacoin, then the main breakout trend came here. So all this was a range. So if we go back a little bit more, there's quite a lot of data here. So you can see this is within a massive range. So we could put in a resistance line would be up here, across here, and support line would come across here. Now we could try and draw it from here, which is the most recent low, but I'd be a little bit nervous about that because it's only got 1 point and it's very recent. So where I think we should draw a line of support is here, which is the breakout point. So this breakout point is crucial as far as I'm concerned, because this started this new trend. Now, this can be a consolidation and go sideways before it goes up, but I don't want to see it break this low, because that means, whoever was excited about it on this side may have to, get out of their positions and maybe rotate into something that's performing a bit better. I know, when when the technology is good, we can hold and buy more. But as I always say, I'm using the charts and I don't have that information. So I've got a parachute level to get me out. Otherwise, I could just sit and watch it go all the way to zero. So for me, it's just a fairly neutral 60-40 range-bound play. I say 60-40, 60 to the upside, 40 to the downside. I'm bullish on it because the overall trend is bullish. So the overall trend is up, but it hasn't really done a lot since kind of March last year. So range bound is the best I can see for the short term. But I'd be very interested to see it taking out any interim resistance, especially this 0.026 area. If that goes, then we can start talking about it taking out the highs. So I think that's the pressure point up there. If it gets there, the closer it gets to it, the more excited I would get about this coin.
Yeah, Siacoin is a decentralized file storage play, and there's many competitors in the space, and pretty much none of them have done good since March and April of last year, when we had this mini leg of the bull market. So, I mean, it was a really big pump, bigger than anything we've seen since. But I think we're setting up for something much, much bigger. For me, this would be a wait, because I think it's going to come down a little bit cheaper before it gets really good. And the reason is I don't know that file storage is coming back into the narrative yet. And so crypto tends to run in narratives. So Mark Zuckerberg brought metaverses to the forefront, and the metaverse plays pumped tremendously. They've now been on a cool down period, but those ones for sure are not down and out. They're just out right now of the focus. But as the focus comes back on them, the major players and even the minor players will run tremendously again. And so I think the narrative is going to go from Bitcoin to decentralized finance again, and then back to maybe metaverses, gaming, and file storage tends to run somewhere in there. Some big event happens that everyone's thinking of file storage, and then the decentralized file storage plays tend to run tremendously. So for me, it's a wait. It's one of the bigger contenders, Siacoin, that's been out there that has a bigger market cap. Current market cap's 481 million, and I think there's other plays I like a lot better than this one. But if I were just playing the price, I would still wait.
Yeah, that's
I'd
really
probably be
interesting.
buying that support zone that you drew out.
Yeah,
because I think that'll probably hold.
interesting. No, that's really good. It's really good to know. I think it's absolutely right to talk about sector rotation as the whole sector starts to mature, because it's quite obvious that there are big moves in some coins and there's others that are in the inverted commas wrong section. And I think when we get this major breakout in Bitcoin and Ethereum in this next leg, obviously there's no 100% that that's going to happen, but I think it will. Then everything will go up. We'll have what's called a major bull phase. So in a major bull phase, almost everything goes up. So we're not in that. So that this is where the market gets really picky about what it wants to buy, because we're in this consolidation. So it's very similar to the way stocks operate.
Yeah, Yeah.
And you know from real estate as well, don't you? Because you know that, when everything's going up, people are like, they'll just buy it because everything's going up and it doesn't matter what the area is. I mean, it always matters what the area is, but everything will just rise. But
People
when
tend to FOMO into an area where there's already large green candles because they
yeah,
just, the recency bias, right? Oh, it's
yeah,
going to keep going up for forever. It doesn't.
yeah. But when things start to come off, everyone becomes very picky and they just want the quality stuff. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, and they sell a whole bunch of the other stuff. Yeah, so it's
yeah.
like price action going up brings more price action that's going up, especially when it hits its threshold and it just takes off, and we see that. Um, yeah, the next one on the list is Loopring, and this is a funny one because I bought this during the bear market. I don't know. Apparently, this ran, and I wasn't paying attention. I have to figure out if I had any because it ran tremendously in November. I need
Oh
to look
wow.
at some of the places that I have crypto stashed and see if I had those. But if so, I missed my chance to sell it while it was high.
Oh man.
I kind
Yeah.
of, when a lot of the audience members, many of them are newer in crypto, when they've been around for like 5 years in crypto, this will start to happen to them too, especially as their portfolio has grown and they've diversified a whole bunch. It's like, oh yeah, Loopring, don't I have that? Oh boy, I missed the massive take profit zone when apparently everyone was talking about it, and I didn't catch that. So
Mm. Yeah. Well, it could still have another go, and
I think it
it's
will. Yeah,
it's sitting on relatively good support where we are now, and the overall trend is still bullish. So there's no major sell signal. Now that doesn't mean it's not going to go down, but I think the way it's traded. So we have to look at each chart, and each market has its own kind of signature, and this likes to break up and then come back and then break up and then come back. But overall the trend is up, and it went up from here. So it started, this was the major low, this double bottom, so 1 2, and then really nice acceleration in price. So from here and this major low, which is the most solid support on the chart but obviously quite far away, it has been going up. So look, over here it was trying to break into new highs when the broader market was quite hot, but everything retraced. So it's just retraced back with everything else. So I think this will hold above this trend line. As long as it holds this trend line and this support area, I'd be fairly comfortable with, a longer term position. Now, I'd like to see a similar sort of consolidation here, maybe a triangle or something like that, and it to ascend towards this 3.5 level, which is clearly very psychological. If we take that out, should go at least a couple of bucks. So I like it. I think this is a good chart. It's a good one to keep an eye on for sure. I don't have any of it, but I think we're in a potentially good place to buy it. If it breaks this trend line, I think the next shelf support, which will, hopefully hold it, will be at 0.03. If it goes below that, though, I would start to be really concerned about the trend. So there is some, I look for like catch points where, where it should hold if I get the timing wrong. And overall, the trend still looks good. So I'd hope that it would go up with the rest of the market. So we've seen the move in Bitcoin. Maybe there'll be a filter down to some of the altcoins as well.
yeah, probably. Yeah, this will probably kind of trade sideways, maybe and correct a little bit more for a little bit of time, much like we saw in the last chart. Loopring is a ZK roll-up layer 2 for trading and payments, and so that really hit the narrative in November, December. I think I'm holding this on some smaller exchange, which is where you had to buy it way back then, but now it's on like Coinbase and everything else, and so my buy price was probably around 3 or 4 cents.
Oh, wow.
So it's
Nice
massively
one.
up, and at $3, I'm like, that would have been a great jump off point, and then being able to go back in when it then retraces. So we'll see. I think I remembered where I had it, and we'll see. That'll be
Cool.
fun. Because even with it having retraced a bunch, it'll still be massively up. Uh,
Yeah.
let's
So,
jump over to IMX. So I'm excited to look at this one with you.
okay. I may have got the wrong one. So I just popped let's have a look. So I just took the first one. Is it immutable or is it IMX US dollar?
Immutable. It's
Okay. So
Immutable X.
So it was. So it is this chart then?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So this is a tricky one from a technical point of view because there's not a lot of data, and it is pretty much in a downward trend. Now we have got a bit of support recently, so it has made a spike low and then it's gone sideways, which is okay. What we're looking for to end this trend is a big spike down. That spike down shows us that there's been what we call capitulation in the market. So whoever was holding it has just gone, I can't take any more. They throw in the towel, and then it has a really good bounce. We haven't actually had that really good bounce yet. It's only just gone sideways, which is a little concerning to me. So I have to stick with this downward trend until we can, rally a bit further and put a bit of distance between this recent low. So I'd look for a rally and then a pullback, and then try and get in on the pullback rather than, buying it here where, I mean, if you were like really keen on the technology, if you were to buy it here, at least you have a relatively close stop. A stop is where you exit the position if you're wrong. Traders look for those in sort of good places. A good place for a stop is below the lowest point on the chart. So if you're at the beginning of a trend, potentially you can have a relatively small stop. So your stop would be at 1.27. You're buying it at around 1.5. So you immediately know what your risk is. And if it goes up a long way from here, then you've got very good risk reward. But from the price perspective, there's not much to show that this is bottomed out. And therefore the risk factor is much higher. So I'd have to say this is a wait.
Yeah, for me, it's a wait too. I love this one long term. I love it. I think it's going to be huge.
Now you don't say that often, so
right.
Yeah.
So I'm excited that this one's getting cheaper and cheaper. So many moons ago, there was a trading game, like a card trading game, built on the blockchain, and it's called Gods Unchained 2.5 years ago. And when DeFi summer came in 2020 and ETH prices went really high, it was no longer feasible to trade these cards on the ETH blockchain. So it had big backers. It had Coinbase backing it and some other big names backing this card game. So they went and they developed their own layer 2 solution called Immutable X. It's now garnished a lot of attention from other cryptocurrency games, kind of the way MATIC has. And it's got its own blockchain. It's got its own marketplace. And so there's a lot of development heading that way. What it's running into is just probably, my guess, vesting schedule problems in that they did a token launch and they sold a bunch of tokens. And now those tokens are getting unlocked to their pre-sale investors or their public investors. That's why I think the chart keeps going negative. And that gets me excited because I hope it gets cheaper. Now, they gave me some. 20,000, I think, is what I got for having been like an original. I bought a lot of Gods Unchained cards. And so if you had bought some, they measured how many you still had in your account as of a certain day. And so you got some Immutable X. And so I went ahead and sold those because I saw what was happening in the charts. I hadn't seen the vesting schedules, and I still haven't. But I was like, yeah, this looks like a vesting schedule problem. And so I've been waiting to buy back because the long term, I think, is fantastic. The price action was really worrying me, though. Like, there are some vesting schedule problems, and that if there are, they'll probably continue to drop for a while and get much cheaper, even though I believe so much in this long term.
Brilliant. It's so great to hear about these technologies. It's fantastic. So I'm definitely keeping an eye on that one.
Yeah, I love this one. Absolutely. So great suggestion from one of our viewers. Let's take a look over at UFO.
Yeah, UFO. Is it UFO Gaming? Is that?
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah. Okay. So I can see immediately from the price action that this is not a particularly liquid chart, or market. So what I mean by that is the more traders and the more volume that's occurring, the more liquid the market is. And you can see this sort of stair-step sort of pattern. It's a bit like when you've got a low resolution photo and you see pixels in them and blocky pixels. This is kind of what's going on here. So if there's anything that represents a that could be moved by just a few players, or some vesting schedules, or whatever that might be, this looks like it could be one of them. Now, if you want a textbook version of a head and shoulders reversal, here it is. So we've got, this is the left shoulder, this is the head, and this is the right shoulder. So that is a topping pattern, and the trend will be negative until we can either see another reversal pattern of some kind, or if we negate it by breaking back over the neckline. So the neckline is this line that comes across here. So we imagine that this is a head and these are the shoulders. So this line is the technical line that we use for trading. So at this, however many zeros there are, 190, if it gets back over there, then it's a buy. Or if we see something else here. Now, the only other thing we could say about this is it's not on the low of the chart, because we have a printed low down all the way down here. We can also say that it's got so many zeros in front of it that you could take a very small position and wait a few months or maybe a years, and then if it's, you know, back up here or to anything that's a small amount, you could end up making a lot of money. So it's always tempting to get into something just because of the potential, you know, upside for it to just get to even, you know, 10 cents or something like that. But that aside, the technology's got to make sense, and at the moment it's still in a downward trend, so it'd be very speculative for me to buy it. I'd need to wait for a breakthrough here. I'd say for something like this with not much history, I would be more comfortable waiting for this resistance area between 170 and 190 to break out.
Yeah, and looking at that chart, it says to me that there's probably going to be a little bit more pain. It's just not nice and round enough, showing me that it's ready for a direction change. So, and it might stick around in the resistance that it's now about to hit, but it might blow through that. And that's my concern. So I like this one. Like, I wouldn't buy it now. For me, it'd be a wait too. I'd like to see more of a rounded bottom before I'd be buying this one. But market cap's at 252 million.
Okay.
Its total circulating supply is already in full supply, so it won't have any vesting issues.
Okay.
So I like that. So when it does turn around, it can turn around quite strong. I like it when I think projects are smart to make their early token prices so cheap, so that later, even after the project has done really well, then, you know, the token price is still in the 1 penny or 2 penny ranges. Whereas a lot of projects, they might launch and their initial token price might be 10 cents, but then their token price shows as like $5 or $50. When new people come into the market, they tend to stay away from those because they think, oh, that's so expensive.
Right.
They don't realize they have to look at, well, it's not just the price of the token you have to look at, but how many tokens in circulation. And that tells you the true price. But sometimes it takes months to teach people that. So why not give people what they're expecting, which is a low token price, because it's going to take them several months being in the crypto space and having somebody try to explain that to them for several months before it really sinks in.
Yeah, that's really important, and that applies to shares as well. Like, people tend to want to buy little shares because they think they're cheaper, but actually that's not how it works.
There might be 10 billion of them in supply, and these are only 1 cent, and it's but there's 10 billion.
Yeah, you're not actually comparing like with like, because it's you know, you could have a really good technology that's making lots of money, and you could have a really cheap share that's, you know, they're not, and they're going bankrupt. So it just really So, but that's really interesting. So, I love the name UFO Gaming. That sounds really cool. So, I do
wonder if they're out of like Roswell, New Mexico, or where is like Area 56. I think that's supposed to be out of Nevada.
Yeah, we'll have to see where the head office is. That would be cool, wouldn't it?
So the next one, suggestion from the audience, I think is Sunny Aggregator. I think is what they're asking for.
Yeah, that's what I put up. So hopefully that's what you guys wanted. So Sunny Aggregator, what have we got going on here? Taking a bit of pain here, isn't it, really? Trend is still down on this leg. The overall trend is down as well. We're matching the lows of last year. So there I would have been, you know, this is the thing about technicals, right? If we were looking at the market like that, I would have said definitely stay out, because I don't want to get caught in something that is continuing down. Now, if we get new news, you can see how those sharp blue candles change that trend. You know something new's happening. So we've had the breakout, and it should really have extended here. This is key resistance up here, so it got sold into that. So we're falling down here. So everything's got a bit of a story behind it. So what we're trying to work out is, are investors looking for an area to buy, or is this at a critical point? This is a really critical point, because obviously this was the jumping off point where whoever bought it here did extremely well. There must have been some great news out, or something that caused this rally. But why has it come all the way back down? Just to flip back to the Decentraland argument, I don't mind a retracement, but I don't want it to come too far down. Otherwise, it's telling me that there's potentially something much worse. So when you retrace 100% of a move, you should find support here. So it should stop here. But I don't know whether I would want to jump in on this at this level. It would be completely speculative. I mean, one could, but you know, if it goes any lower, then you're kind of stopped out really quickly. So it's at a major level. It's at a major support level, but I'm not sure that justifies anything but a short-term buy as opposed to a long-term buy. It really does have to do something like this to get me excited and back in again, and to break resistance, which I would say at the very least it's got to get through this 0086 area before I would feel a bit more comfortable. I'd like to see a reversal pattern, which is where the market makes a base and then moves up. So I don't mind leaving a bit of money on the table just to get a secure base for this rally.
Yeah, this is another Solana ecosystem project, and its chart looks like most smaller Solana altcoin charts around the same time, especially the DeFi Solana plays. Solana was really pumping in September, and so a lot of the projects, even the new ones on Solana, were pumping like crazy, and they've been savage since then. Solana, they had promised they could do like 50,000 transactions per second, and there was a big launch of a project that it crashed the system at about 800 transactions per second. And so I think they had overpromised and underdelivered really well, so much that, you know, it's really kind of hurt them, and they've been in a huge retracement pattern, just about everything on the Solana ecosystem since. But you see it kind of making these nice rounded bottoms. If you look on the linear charts, I look for those nice rounded bottoms, and it might not be ready to run yet, but soon. So I just put in more in Solend, which is in the same space as Sunny Aggregator, and it has really big backers. And so that was my play. But this is so cheap, having been like 14 cents before, and now is like under half a cent. Whew, it gets really tempting, right?
Yeah,
that kind
absolutely.
of retracement.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, that's really good background, because if it's something that's being affected by another, you know, the whole system, as opposed to a problem that's with this particular coin, that's what I look out for. Like if it's just because of the Solana network and the problems that they had, I'm sure they're going to sort them out, and then things will go back up again. So if it's a good technology on its own, then this could be, you know, really interesting. And at these levels, as we would say, worth a punt. But it's technically, as I say, you just have to be a bit careful.
Yeah, if I knew a little bit more about the team and stuff on this, I would roll the dice on it. For now, it'd be a wait, but that's only if I knew more about the team. I would be like, okay, it's cheap enough that I'll throw some in. Like I did just dollar cost average more into Solend. Now, Solend's not on near as big of a retrace as this is, though it's been on a nice retrace. And I just dollar cost averaged into it like 2 days ago. I put more in. It's in the same space as this, where it's DeFi lending on Solana.
Right. Great.
Cool.
So I think the next one is IXS.
Yes, IXS.
So this would be IXS Swap, if that is the first. I just picked the
It
first
is.
one.
Yep. No, that's exactly it.
That's exactly it. Okay. Again, this is it's got a bit of history. That's not bad, but it's not been in a major trend. What we're looking at here is pretty much a range. Now, the interesting characteristics of this chart are this rally and the retracement. So what we're looking for here is this that like the beginning of a new sort of what we call bullish structure? Will it turn into 5 in Elliott wave terms? You're looking for 5 bullish waves. So you get 1, 2, then 3, which is the third wave is usually the biggest wave, then 4, then 5. So as long as it holds above this low here, this absolute low, that's a possibility. Now, the reason why I'm saying it in terms of and using Elliott wave, which I don't normally talk about, is because the only thing I can see on this chart is this really sharp thrust up. And when in Elliott wave terms, when you have a sharp thrust, the correction is usually more kind of overlapping, and it's more sort of complex in its structure. So this is definitely a thrust of some kind, and this is definitely a correction. So at the end of the correction, we would see the market rally back up. So if it can break this trend line here, this, if we draw in a downward trend line, and we look for like interim resistance to break, so somewhere around here, I would start to get excited about a potential move up. Now, we could also break this move down into percentage retracements, and it's looking like it's around 50% there. So 50% is a good support level. 61.8 is even better. So as long as it holds over the 61.8% retracement point, then again, I think this is looking good. But we then look at having analyzed the short term, we're going to look at the big picture. And the big picture is that we've got a resistance point up here. We've got another one here, another one here, and another one here. Now, first prize for somebody to tell me what's going on there. Well, they're all falling, aren't they? So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So we want to see this pattern broken. So if it can trade up and take this out, then we're saying we're moving into a new phase, because this pattern of lows has been broken. So that would really need to happen from a long-term perspective before we could get really bullish and talk about new highs. But while it's below there, we have to be a little bit cautious. But I do like the way it rallied here. And I think that impulsive move could kick something else off.
Yeah, I was looking up some details on this from months and months and months ago. I covered this and did some research on it. So IXS Swap specifically, so I had some really good in-depth research on them. So if you think about it, their goal was to build kind of like a Uniswap for security tokens, in a marketplace for security tokens. And so I guess that's a good summary. We did have the founder on many months ago. Gosh, it must have been about 6 months ago, and had them on to talk about it. And that was right around when it launched. Now, I was trying to look through the research and see if I could find out what the vesting was on the token, and I didn't see that. So a lot of times it's kind of a token vesting problem in the early days, but even from when this launched, let me share my screen. Let's see. So, there we go. Even from when it launched, you see it went up to 70 cents, and it came all the way down to about 10 cents, and then has pumped from there. So it's like, it's held up pretty well. A lot of projects get savage during these early months as their tokens vest and their price gets hurt. So not bad, really not bad what it's done. I would have to look more exactly at what the token vesting is. I did find one document, I don't know if it's current, talking about the token vesting, and it looks like it has a really long vesting for a lot of people that bought. The public sale vested over 3 months, and then the private sale over like 24 months and stuff. So that's good. So all the public sale people would have already had their tokens vested completely, and it's held up pretty well amidst that. Nice. Probably, yeah. So there's a lot of buy pressure behind this. Let's see what markets it's on now. It's on KuCoin. It's tradable on QuickSwap and also Uniswap. Interesting. Cool.
Cool. And I think the last one is Armor. So unless this is the wrong one, maybe you could have a look.
That looks like most every altcoin, that chart right now.
Yeah.
As it preps before, this is when I get excited though. When we get prices get savage like this, gets me excited because I know how this ends usually, and it turns around and then it goes so crazy. I mean, this is what the chart looked like when I was trying to pick up Cardano during the bear market, and I was buying it at 7 cents, and then 6 cents, and then 5 cents, and then 4 cents, and then 3 cents. I think I got a little bit near its low. It hit all the way at 1.7 cents. And then it went to the $3. So
yeah. I have a similar kind of, philosophy on that once it starts moving up, I try to jump on it as long as it's made a decent base. But I mean, what we can see here, the most bullish thing that we can say about the chart, when something is so near its kind of all-time low, or the all-time low of the chart, is that it's made a matching green candle against the red candle. So this is called, in Japanese candlestick terms, an engulfing pattern, and it's a bullish signal. It means that in Japanese candlestick imagery, all the bears are being engulfed by the bulls, so they're being swamped. So so that's a bullish pattern. Now, you'd normally wait for confirmation. So once you see the pattern, you'd wait for a green candle to confirm that that's the case, especially when you've got such an aggressive downward trend here. But it's the first step, and the market needs to take a first step before it starts going up. So I'd need to see how it trades into next week. Ideally, I'd like this trend line to break because it's been holding all the price action on the way down. So if we can take that out and turn that from a solid line into a dotted line to say that it's broken, that would be good as well. So, but it's confirming that there is definitely some interest at this low, 0.0195. So, again, without knowing much about the technology, that's how I would read this particular chart, which, to be fair, overall is in a dive. But there are some bullish signs very short term.
yeah, it definitely is in a dive, like many of the altcoins are. So Armor is smart DeFi asset coverage. So it's a way to, protect your assets. Now, as a lot of DeFi asset prices have dropped tremendously, people aren't thinking about buying coverage for them against tax because the value is maybe 20% of what it was. But as that value starts rising again, then this narrative becomes really strong. So I expect this one will do poor, and then it will do great. And we're already seeing some of that has been doing poor. Some things I like about it is, well, if you think about it, 1/5 of the total supply is in circulation already. That's not a huge percentage, but their market cap is really low at 4.8 million. And I like that part about it.
Yeah.
Let's see. It really started. Yeah, it was one of those that launched way back here in the early spring, pumped tremendously, and it's got this nice bottom. So I'm liking it. I might consider this one. Okay, it's tradable on Uniswap, MEXC, Gate.io. I've been using Gate.io a ton lately. It just has so many of the great cheap coins, and it saves us from having to trade them on Uniswap. And we do have a link below. If anyone uses that to sign up, you get 20% of your own trading fees back, which is great. It's actually a better deal than I have myself. So use that link below, because when I signed up, I didn't have somebody else's referral link to sign up on and get 20% of my own trading fees back. And I use this a lot. So yeah, if you don't have an account, Gate.io is the place to go, because it has a lot of these small cap coins on that I like, and I definitely don't want to be trading them on Uniswap if I don't have to, because the fees are crazy on Uniswap. All right.
Brilliant. I think that's it.
Well, that was fun.
That was fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah, it's exciting to see as Bitcoin takes off. Usually it runs, if it continues, to run really hard by itself for a while, and then all of a sudden a lot of momentum will swing into altcoins. So even though I don't hold a lot of Bitcoin, I'm really excited about it making some moves and hope it continues strong. Cool. For those that are in the audience, if you haven't already, hit that like button for us. Make it rain on the like button. And if you're ready to level up your crypto game, join us. You can join us as simply as subscribing with the all notifications bell enabled. Now, I know that this contrarian approach that I talk about works, coupled with fundamental analysis where we look deeper at if the project makes sense or not, and then add in a lot of patience. And it works very, very well over time. So if you haven't already, consider that all notifications bell, and then just tune in when you see our videos pop up. We do a live stream Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 11 a.m. Pacific time. And on Wednesday evenings at 7:30 p.m. Pacific, we do a live stream specific to Vivi or the Akomi project and everything that they have going on. It takes a dedicated live stream at least once a week just to try to keep up with them because they have so much happening. Thank you, Paul, for joining us. Thank you to the audience for joining us, and we will see you all next time. Remember, no rain, no gain.
Came into the space chasing all of the gains, chasing the pumps and all of the hype trains. But like in life, buy before you could. Was told to buy when it was pouring like a rainmaker should. I buy when it's down, don't chase the boats that I miss. Cause I always make the time in mind. I sit the one out cause I'm patient like that. And I'll wait for the right time. I'll sell when it's high, I'll buy when it's low. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm just a rainmaker running the show. Calculated investments, I don't lead with my heart. Principles are simple, they're leaving a mark. Buy when it's boring, just gotta be smart. I sell when it's hype, like all the channels they pump it. That's when I was selling, got parabolic, they dump it. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes it time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Time is never better, but time like the present. This next 5 years is a gift and it's feeling like heaven. I'm committed to learn, to study and to know that nothing comes easy but with knowledge the game show. Sticking out this wrong cause soon will come a bear market. Learning and growing and when it's slow will be the target. They say it's come out, Bitcoin is dead. The massive decreases can get to your head. Sticking around, the time is better. I'm strong like that, I'll let the others be fretters. 2 years time the ball will bring back the gains. That makes it worth the effort cause here comes the rain. So let's go rainmakers, let's make it all happen. Let go with the hate, let the haters be crapping. I'm here for 5 years, let's do this together. The time is right, the time could be better. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes it time fly by, years going so fast. This game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Haters be hating, but time to slow down. Addressing what they say when I'm wearing my crown. They're chasing green candles like someone who was new. I got a vision that was bigger, helping me to push through. I'm still human and sometimes it is rough. And that's what makes me special, simply I stay tough. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck.